At the beginning of the film we will be taken to a small town in America, where we have been told that in recent years there have been many people in this city who are drug addicts, of course due to the rise of dealers around. Then we were introduced to a sheriff named Mike. That morning might have been a very bad morning for Mike because Mike had just lost his son. When Mike saw the body of his son, it turned out that his son had just an overdose due to prohibited substances. The scene moves to a man named Shelby John, when John is buying some drinks for his girlfriend at home. Arriving at his house, he was immediately welcomed by his girlfriend, Ruby. Here we are explained that John and Ruby are addicts. As usual at night they are flew together. One day John and Ruby were seen to a conversation casually on the terrace at their house. Here Ruby felt they had to stop their addiction and live normally like the others. John said, "Have we tried to stop but failed?" Ruby said that she wants Untuck to get married, have a child and live normally with John. After talking for a long time, they finally decided to stay away from illegal drugs that had been ruining their lives, even though they knew that it would not be easy. Then they threw away all the items and equipment they used to fly. In the following days it was seen that they were still able to endure withdrawal, but after long enough they felt the effects of withdrawal, which were very painful, starting from vomiting, convulsions, anxiety, depression and a feeling of wanting suicides. Every day they continued to feel pain, but their determination looks so really wants to quit their addiction. At any time when Ruby, who already feel cannot take it anymore, she plans to go back to buy and illegal drugs again, but she was stopped by John. John felt that they could definitely get through all this. In short, now they've made it through all that. Ruby went to church for the first time, while John went to the jewelry store to buy a wedding ring. After buying the ring, John accidentally met a man named Elvis. It was known that Elvis had been the one who had been selling illegal drugs to John and Ruby. Here Elvis asked if John was buying goods to someone else. John said that he and Ruby had stopped and he asked Elvis to stay away from them. In the other side, we will be introduced to the gangsters who have been controlling drug trafficking in this city. The leader of the gang is Coyote, and this is him. At that time Coyote killed one of his men because he was caught stealing his illegal drug. In the evening John and Ruby are very happy now. They plan to go to Ruby's family to tell them that Ruby and John are getting married soon. A few days later they go to Ruby's house, which coincides with his nephew's birthday. When they got there, they were immediately welcomed by Ruby's uncle named Peter. So far it was Peter who had been supporting Ruby's family, and Peter was also known as a very religious person. After the birthday finish, Ruby's family gathered for lunch together. Here Ruby said that her and John would get married soon. Ruby's mother was disappointed because John should have asked her permission first. John immediately apologized to Ruby's mother and he promised would be a good husband for Ruby. In the end, her mother blessed John to marry Ruby. Peter also looked very happy because he was sure that John was a good person. In the days leading up to John's wedding and inviting Ruby to have fun first. On one occasion Ruby said that he really wanted to be baptized before getting married. John, who heard that, immediately said yes to Ruby's wishes. The next day it was seen that John was going home, and meanwhile Ruby would follow because she was still at home with her mother. Arriving at John's house, he was shocked because Elvis was already there. Elvis said that he had something new and surely John and Ruby would like it. John was annoyed and threatened Elvis and said that he would beat him if he dared to offer that illegal stuff again to John and Ruby. After Elvis left John's house and he has accidentally ran into Ruby's car, Ruby immediately asked what is Elvis' business to meet John. Elvis lied by saying that John had ordered new stuff for him. Hearing this, Ruby felt lied by John because he thought that John was secretly still a drug user. Here Elvis gave free and new illegal stuff to Ruby because all this time Ruby was the best consummate. Ruby, who was still disappointed in John, accepted the stuff without any doubt. When she arrived at John's house, John asked why Ruby was acting strange even though tomorrow was Ruby's christening day. Here Ruby seemed to be still covering up all his problems and said everything were fine. The next day when John approached Ruby on the terrace of the house, he was so shocked that Ruby had passed away because of an overdose. John was so very sad and depressed considering that the day after tomorrow is their wedding day. After that, John still took Ruby to do the baptism considering that was Ruby's last wishes. Here the pastor suggested that John also be baptized, but John said that if he did not want to be baptized now because he had some sins that he must do. Then John went home to get a gun because John was planning revenge on Elvis. Because John did not have a weapon, nothing in the end, he only brought a nail gun. Here it is revealed that John is a former special forces. Shortly after John left, Sheriff Mike and his men suddenly came. Apparently the sheriff had heard of the death of John's girlfriend and he knew that John would surely be brutal in his own way. Unfortunately at that time the sheriff could not find John because John had already left his house. In the evening, John went to Elvis's house. When Elvis was about to open the door, suddenly, after Elvis was cornered, John told his wife and Elvis's chili to leave the house immediately. Here John asked, why is Elvis still giving that illegal stuff to Robbie? Elvis replied that he had a sales target where in a month he had to sell 1 kilogram of illegal stuff. Because this month there were no buyers, so he was forced to seduce Robbie so that Robbie would become an addict again. Then John asked, where did Elvis get these stuff? At first Elvis did not want to tell, but because John continued to torture him. In the end, Elvis admitted that he got the illegal drugs from a dealer named Darius. After Elvis said Darius's name and the place of living by Darius, John without hesitation immediately killed him. Then John stole some of Elvis's guns and rushed away. Not long after that, the sheriff came to Elvis's house after Elvis's wife called the police. Here the sheriff and several of his men managed to find several kilos of illegal drugs and ready to distribute by Elvis. Behind that, John went to a hotel because from the information that Elvis had provided that Darius was living there. When he was inside, John immediately went in and hit Darius' right-hand man. This is Darius, who has been giving stock of illegal stuff to Elvis. Darius asks, what does John want? John replied that he would kill all the dealers in this city. Hearing this, Darius said that he actually wanted to quit the business, but unfortunately Darius' boss would not let Darius stop. John asked, who is Darius' boss? Answered Darius' right-hand man answered that Darius should not reveal it. That's why John immediately shot the leg of Darius' right-hand man. Until in the end Darius said that his boss was named Coyote, who now lived in a remote village with his gangsters. Darius also said that John should kill Coyote immediately before Coyote killed John and himself. Here John did not kill Darius and chose to leave. After that, you can see the sheriff and his men going to the hotel after they received news about the mess that John had made. When they got there, the sheriff tried to interrogate Darius' right-hand man in the ambulance. The sheriff asked, where is the man who shot him in the leg? Because the right-hand man didn't answer, the sheriff immediately tortured him a bit. In the end, the right-hand man said that John was heading to Coyote headquarters, which was in a remote village. Shortly in the end, John arrived at Coyote headquarters. Before carrying out the attack, John monitored them first. Here is Coyote, who was seen killing one of his men who was considered a traitor. Meanwhile, under the headquarters there is a car seen about to send drugs. Until it was seen that John managed to stop the car in the middle of the road. Without hesitation, John killed the driver. Then John put some grenades and the car exploded. After that, John secretly entered the headquarters area through the back road. Here without hesitation John finished them all. One by one the gangster members of Coyote's men killed by John, until in the end John managed to corner Coyote, but when he was about to shoot, it turned out that John had run out of bullets. Then a fight broke out between them until Coyote chose to run away into the forest. Here John did not stay silent, he took the weapon that was lying there and then went after Coyote. Shortly the sheriff came with one of his men, while John and Coyote were still chasing each other in the forest. After an hour there, Coyote tried to contact the big boss who had been working with Coyote all this time. But suddenly John snatched Coyote's phone and he was very surprised because the mastermind of all drug trafficking in this city was someone he knew. When John was about to kill Coyote, suddenly the sheriff came holding a gun. The sheriff begged John to stop all this brutality and, "For the Coyote, let me handle it." When John was starting to melt down, suddenly came one of Coyote's men who immediately shot the sheriff's men. Luckily John could kill him, and for Coyote the sheriff had to shoot for trying to resist. Then John and the sheriff took the sheriff's men out of the forest. After leaving the forest, John accidentally met a resident who happened to be passing by. John also asked the resident to take the sheriff's men to the hospital. Here the sheriff will bring his men while John will come to the mastermind from all drugs in this city. Shortly, finally met the mastermind behind all of this, who turned out to be Peter, who was none other than John's uncle. John couldn't stop thinking that Peter, who he thought was a religious person, was actually the biggest dealer. Another to support Robbie's family members, who were none other than John's girlfriend's family members. On one occasion Peter secretly took a gun then shot John and a fight broke out between them. When Peter was cornered, John immediately put drugs into Peter's body so that Peter felt what Robbie felt. After Peter dies, John goes to the Reverend because now John wants to be baptized in the same river as Robbie. Then the movie ends.